Hello everybody, welcome to George's Riddle Academy. Today we have a live stream in the second episode of my series, which is a rating climb on both on chess.com and Lichess. Today I have a guest in my channel, as in the previous episode, who has a rating of 1900 ELO, in rapid of course. Here we see his chess game against his opponent Mach Hendrik. Now his opponent pushed his pawn forward to kick this bishop away. The guest captured the knight. Maybe his opponent will recapture with the d pawn. Uh, he castles, which is a protective move. There is a threat on the knight on c3 by the bishop. Rook e8, a developing move. My subscriber kicks the bishop away. He can play before, but I don't highly recommend this move. Rook e1 is a symmetrical move. A pin on the knight. h3 kicks the bishop away. Both of his knights are pinned now, but he can have a counterplay by moving his bishop to g5, fostering a pin in this diagonal. He played before, as I previously mentioned. Now the black bishop is placed on b6, threatening the diagonal in which the white king is placed. Bishop e3 is such a good move because it offers a bishop exchange, and if his opponent captures, he opens up the f file, which is uh, crucial for his rook. Now there is a pawn break in these two squares. You can push the pawn forward to maintain this file closed. If he captures, there is a pin here in this knight and rook, so his bishop uh, would have the priority to retreat, so that's very bad for his position. He has to play pawn to b5 here. Very interesting move. His opponent sacks the knight. If he recaptures, bishop captures g4, another pin, but now this pin is in the king's side. I think that in this point the position for the white pieces is slightly devastated, but there is a +1 material advantage. What he grab the bishop here. There there will be double pawns on the queen side. He has the move king to g2 and then rook to h1 to open up a little bit the king side. His knight will be protected. He will bring his queen here, so the position will be more. He captures the bishop, double pawns, and he goes here. Now the queen can be placed in this square. He supports two defenders and two attackers, so the black pieces cannot capture first. They should have. Oh, I think that the player with the black pieces missed one move here. He could have played pawn captures b4, and after a captures b4 and the rook exchange, there would be only one supporter in this knight. This was a tactic of 1, 2, 3 moves, and he missed it. Now, after the exchange, he will have only one attacker, and the white pieces will have two defenders. So it would be better for the white side. But now there are also two defenders, two attackers in this knight, which is equal to the sum of defenders. So there is no problem after making the exchange. And surprisingly, his opponent, Mach Hendrik, resigned. Continue with my game. Play a rapid game. That's the Zen mode, by the way. I have 2000 Tilo approximately in rapid, and my opponent has 1883. I play the Owens defense, opening the light diagonal. My opponent establishes a strong center. He pushes his pawn forward to block the diagonal, so I have a pawn break here with e6 as the theory suggests to play. I pin his knight to the king. Now he has only two supporters to this pawn, and I have two attackers. So I can play here knight to f6 in order to put some pressure to this pawn chain, uh, as long as I have the pin on the knight to the king. He captures. Now I can capture with this pawn to open up the f file, because after this move we're going to have a queen exchange. And after this move, I have this move where I take his rook. Now he unpinned the knight because he brought his bishop to d2. But now I can simply capture the knight, and then I will be able to capture the pawn. And I am +1 in material. He captures and I recapture. If he gives me a check, I have the surprising move bishop to g6, which avoids the check. He prefers to develop his knight. That's not a good move because I simply capture. If he recaptures with a queen, I allow the exchange. He opens up the g file. I develop my knight, and I think here that a castle from the queen side would be uh, more safe rather than castling from the king side, which is slightly exposed. He played pawn to c3 in order to equalize a little bit my knight. But now I have the surprising move knight to e5, where I fork his bishop and pawn. So he has to push his bishop backwards to e2 in order to add two defenders to this pawn, as long as I have two attackers. But I also have this move, rook to f8, that creates a strong battery in this file. So here I win the double pawn by giving him a check. He plays queen to d4. Very interesting move. Here I have many different options. Option number one, I can take the pawn with the knight, giving a check and forking the queen, and after the recapture I would have a positional advantage where I will threaten. But there is also a queen sacrifice here, where if he does not capture the queen, I have the fork, and also If he captures the knight, I get the rook, and it is a check where I gain another rook. But I'm gonna see now if there is a counterplay after the queen sacrifice, because it is not a safe option. If I capture with the knight, which is the safest option, he castles. No, he will not be able to castle. Let's think about it a little bit, because it is worthwhile to sacrifice the queen here, because this tactic is rare enough. After this move, what he can do to avoid it? There are many different options, and of course it's very interesting. If I sacrifice the queen, he has a protective move, of course, rook to f1, I think. But then I don't gain anything else. I think that this move is safer, and I will not uh, excessively, because I lose time from my clock. Okay, if he captures the knight, because he has to capture the knight, I can capture his queen to simplify the board. And then he will not be able to capture my rook, because he will have as a priority to recapture on d4 to gain back the lost material by the capture on his queen. So after this exchange, I will be able to grab his bishop, I will castle, and I will create a strong battery on the f-file. I will grab this pawn, and I will threaten the entire second uh, line of the board. Let's see if my subscriber started another game. He plays with Ahmed IKR, and he is in the phase of the endgame. He is +2 in material. He has a knight and a pawn, and a rook, whereas his opponent has 2 pawns and 1 rook. His opponent pretends to threaten this pawn, but my subscriber gives him a check here. He can go a rook. He can go for a rook to g3, giving him another check. And after this move, he will have a strong tempo on threatening this pawn again. Now he threatens both of uh, his opponent's pawns. Now he can go on the seventh line of the board, but he blocks with the knight. He could have just sacrificed the pawn here because of this move, and after the defending move of the rook, he would be able to enter the attack with his knight. Okay, my opponent played. He captured the knight with the bishop, and I captured his queen. If he captures my rook, I will be able to capture the pawn on f2, giving him a check. And I think this is quite advantageous because I will bring the rook in the attack. He gives me a check. Oh, I think that this is a Desperanto tactic where he tries to minimize his lost material. In this position, I am +8 in material. If I block his bishop, I will be able to gain some material. Yes, now I am +1, and I bring my rook on the attack. Both of my rooks because I castle next. And I think that this pawn uh, can be easily captured by my pawn on the g file as it happened. Let's see the other game. It is very interesting. The pawn is supported by the knight. His king can maneuver towards the first columns of the board, and then he will be able to bring his rook on a7 in order to threaten his rook and his pawn simultaneously. Now his opponent threatens the black knight, so my subscriber has to move it. He can go for what move? He can retreat with his king in order to support it, because if he moves the knight, uh, there is rook to f6, a very that works the queen and the pawn, the king and the pawn. Back to my game. My opponent played rook to h2, supporting the f2 pawn. Here I can push my forward in order to threaten the d-file pawn, and I can bring my rook to the g-file in order to prepare a major attack on the side of my opponent. I give him a check. Maybe he's going to threaten my rook by moving his king to f3, but then I will have a new strong battery on the g-file. He chose the opposite side, blocking the support of his rook to the d4 pawn. I go here, and my plan is to place my rook on g2 in order to threaten his rook and his pawn simultaneously and gain the advantage in material. Quite interesting. I go here. For a while, I will not comment on the game of my subscriber because I only have 1 minute on my clock and my opponent has 5 times uh, more time than me. I move my king. King moves, king moves. I support the seventh rank of the board, and now I bring my other rook on the f file. That's quite good because now I control the entire third rank of the board. Now I can push my pawns forward, and then I will be able to create a strong battery on the f file again, threatening this pawn and supporting the entire pawn chain. The time on my opponent's clock diminishes as I play fast. I extend my pawn chain, and if he pushes one of his two pawns forward, I will capture them because I don't want to draw his position. I go here, supporting move. I give him a check, pawn advance. I open up the position. I protect the pawn chain with my rook. I cannot capture with the other rook. Because of this pawn here, I will lose the advantage. He gives me a check, but now he cannot penetrate into uh, the position of the black side. I support my pawn. I support it again. Check. I go back. Pawn advance. He captures. And I give him another check. Now it is equal, and I lose a pawn here. I threaten the rook. I give him a check. I go back. My pawn is in danger. King to c5. Rook captures c4. d4 now. That's a very interesting endgame, by the way. He captures my pawn, and I threaten the pawn chain. Right move. I support the pawn. And now the game is lost. Now we are back on the game of my subscriber. Here he sacks the rook. And after this check, what happens? That was an idiotic move. There is no fork after the rook sacrifice. Okay, here we see a kind of king maneuvering and a series of pins by the white rook, and a huge difference on the clock of the two players. Check, king retreats, check again. Of course, he cannot capture the knight because then the player with the black pieces will gain a draw, and here my subscriber lost. Next game. I play versus a player of the rating of 1930 ELO points. I begin with pawn to e4, and then I will transpose to the reti. That's the open Sicilian. I create a fianchetto, and after the pawn advance on c4, we have a very common pattern of the reti opening. Oh, I sacrificed the pawn. Huge mistake. What can I do here? I will simply castle. If my opponent pushes his knight forward, I will simply play queen to b3, because no matter if he captures here, he loses a knight. He advances his pawn here in order to support the pawn on d4, and now I foster a pin to his knight, which makes it unable to move because of the potential threat on his queen. I can place the two boards together in order to see them simultaneously. My subscriber here faces a gigantic queenside attack. He goes for the pawn break at the center. In my position, my opponent kicks my bishop away, so I can either capture the knight or retreat to d2, which is the most rational move. The e-file is opened in this chess game. He can block it with the bishop, but then this pin follows, so that's dangerous. He loses a bishop, I think. This was a terrible mistake. Bishop to d3, then rook to a2. Oh, he missed that. Bishop captures e2, fork on the rook and the knight. And my subscriber wins. Exciting. Back to my game. My opponent played bishop to e6, a developing move that threatens my pawn on the c-file. But what can I play in this position? There are many various options. For example, I can develop my knight from the to the edge of the board, because then I have the initiative of placing it on uh, on b5, but then I will not have square available, so I look for another move. course, I can move my knight here without placing it to b5 because I want the c file controlled by my rook. So I will play that move. Now back to board 1. My subscriber began with e4, knight to c6, the Nimzowitsch, pawn to d4, pawn break, he advances. Very interesting position, highly developed uh, center by the white pieces, excellent, a diagonal battery. Now he can pin, uh, oh, he offers a bishop exchange. That's an option. I would recommend this move, the pin. Now his opponent supports with pawn to b6. He gives him a check. He can cover with bishop to d7. He can capture here, but there is also the option of the queen. The player with the black pieces does not win anything positionally. I mean, because he has double pawns on the c file, solely the b file is open, but he can simply push his pawn forward to cover the threat. And now, back to our position in board 2. I think that rook to c1 would be great as a move, a developing move that uh, gives dominance to the white side. In board 1, we see the result of a queen exchange. This knight is hanging on the queen side. He can, my subscriber can go back on c3. After this attacking move, he can play pawn to b3, and then he will be able to push his king forward. He castles. That's not a good choice because when the opposing king has not castled yet and the two queens are missing for the board, it is a very good option to push the king forward and bring out the two rooks. It's more aggressive, I mean, because now look, he will create a strong battery on the queen side, and this will be very weak, this pawn, because of these advances. That's a kind of counterplay. He equalizes the black knight. Back to my position, my opponent threatens the pawn on the b file. Let's find a solution here. Personally, I think that in this position, I can expand a little bit my queen side. I can go here, and then he will not be able to attack my knight. This will be supported by the bishop, and this will be supported by the pawn. So I will play it, very simply. And if he places his knight on b4, I will be able to retreat on b1, which is a very simple equalization. And I will maintain the support on the e4 pawn. That's what I want in this position. My opponent goes to c5, threatening my knight. I can go backwards, where I cover these two squares, and that's a very simple solution. And he creates a strong battery on the c file. Okay, here I can play something like uh, What can I play? I can. I would recommend queen to e2, for example, because I want more safety in this pawn. I must be very attentive on this pawn on the d file, but it cannot be pushed forward because it will not have any supporter. On board 2, we have a very interesting pattern. It is an equal position. These pawns are threatened, but also this pawn is threatened, which threatens the rook simultaneously after one move. If he goes here, this pawn is hanging, because after this move, pawn to h6, he will have to retreat, or he will be able to castle this, to capture this pawn, but then it will not have many squares available, and it can't be trapped very easily. Here I can push my knight forward, backwards, because then I will have this square available, which blockades the d4 pawn, and also I connect my knights and I gain more space. Uh, for example, with f4, I push the knight forward. My subscriber chooses to push his pawn forward because this pawn is supported by the knight, and all these squares are equalized. If he goes here after the check, there is an exchange, and then there is pawn to h6, which threatens the knight, while the other knight is threatened. So that's a little bit complex. He goes back with his queen. That's a very strange move, and I open up the position. If he captures, I recapture with the g3 pawn, because I want to play aggressive. I push it forward. It is supported by two pieces, whereas there are only two defenders, and I can recapture here with my queen. I recapture, and I capture, and I block the potential support by the queen. I can fork these two pieces, but he will be able to capture my bishop. So I will capture this pawn first. Now we are still equal in material, and I will not capture the a file pawn because then my pawn will be hanging two defenders and two attackers. Very simple. I cannot fork his pieces now. He can go here. Now I expand the position, I think, or I expand it. I go backwards. No problem. I protect my king and then I will blockade this pawn. Now I open up the file and his king is in danger, in extremely high danger. And now I make the pin. Check. If I capture, he captures, I go here, he goes here, I go here, checkmate. Or he can go here and then here. But I will go for it, I don't have a lot of time. Another game lost. And now I fell from 2000 elo to 1900 and something else. Now I need to win in order to go back to 2000 elo. That's the London system. I have created a video about this opening. So we will play some theory. He retreats and I will not capture because I open up his A file, his H file. I will go for the pawn break. According to the theory, he should play knight to d2 and then pawn to c3. I threaten his pawn by two pieces. He captures and I recapture. He can connect his knights. Now he gives me the opportunity to expand my center because he didn't uh, develop his knight. And if he goes here, I have the fork. According to the theory, I should not push the pawn forward in this move. Firstly, I have to develop all my pieces. I will play bishop to e6 and then queen to d7 or c7, but I prefer d7 and then I will castle. Now in board 1, we are in the endgame again. Two rooks, one rook from each side, two black knights, one white knight. The position is -1 for my subscriber. Now he can play knight to g5, g4, or this move he offers the exchange. and this pawn is weak, so great job. Now, my opponent pinned my knight to the king, but I have many interesting moves here. I can push my knight backwards, supporting these two pieces, and I will recapture here. I can also bring my queen here, but I don't like this kind of pin, so I will play knight to d7, and then I will recapture. And I also think that it is very interesting to play pawn to a6, so after the exchange I will have the entire b file under control. And I play this move. This knight is equalized by this pawn sent by the king. He can capture the pawn here, and then he will offer a rook exchange. Oh no, his rook is no longer protected. He goes here threatening the pawn. He can give him a check, or count, or he can also counter attack. My opponent here castles. I also castle. I support the pawn. And I support my pawn on c6 by creating a strong battery. Now my subscriber is +2, +1 now. But he's going to promote to a queen. If he captures, he has this move. His opponent will go here, and then he will play pawn to c7, pawn to c7. Now he can, yeah, that's right, he supports with the king. He can bring his rook to, that's an alternative. He could have played rook to e7. Now he captures the rook, and he has the advantage. I think that this game is already lost for my subscriber's opponent. Pawn to a3, very interesting. I can threaten his queen, but he can also go here by making this pin. I can expand my king side. That's a counter attack. I change sides. I think that at this point he can bring his king on the side of the black king, because this pawn is pinned to the king. Oh, that's drawish. Very drawish position. Oh, he maintains the rook. Oh, that's a stalemate. Why? Okay, my opponent plays rook c1. If I go here, I will have four defenders and he will have only three attackers. So that's a great plan to open up the king side. Now I can play bishop to f5, and then I will have the opportunity to pin his knight and rook, no matter what he plays next. If he plays this move, I have this move. It's a protective move. It doesn't matter. I will play this move. Very interesting move. He places his knight into a better square, which is closer to the center, but I can pin his knight now to his rook, and also I can add an attacker. Notice that due to this major threat, he cannot capture my pawn to the queen side. And also, I can bring my knight backwards in order to support these uh, little pawn structures. I can also threaten his queen and support these pawn chains simultaneously, which is a greater move. He can also grab my rook, many different options. My subscriber plays another game beginning with e4. The Nimzowitsch. He opens up the center with d4. Pawn break, recaptures. He supports the d4 pawn. Another pawn break. He can support or even threaten the queen. That's a very good move. A pin. Now he can just capture. But after this move, he will have he will not have the opportunity to castle. If an exchange follows on f3 and a capture on e5, he will have the opportunity to capture on b7. He captures probably on c3 and he has double pawns. Back to my position. I don't have a lot of time. I move my knight offering an exchange. So, the main subject of the live stream, as I said, is the rating climb. As you see, I have 1,994 ELOs, whereas my subscriber has 1,949, which is close enough, so that's quite challenging. Oh, I see that there is a pin on his bishop, so that's quite dangerous. This knight threatens the bishop. There is a double threat here, but he cannot avoid it by retreating the bishop. He maintains the threat. Oh, my opponent accepted the exchange and he threatens my bishop again. I can go back, maintaining the support, and I can accept a potential rook exchange. And of course, he cannot build a strong battery on the file due to all these threats that exist in my in this position. Oh, now he moves his knight to g5. He threatens a mate with his queen and also a fork to my pieces. I should block shall checkmate. It's quite dangerous. So now I have to face this fork. I can go here, and after, and if he captures, I will recapture, or even I will give him a check, but I don't want to lose material, so I will go here. What can I do? I will go here. That's the only choice. Oh, that's the analysis board of his game. My subscriber didn't start a new game, so we wait for him. Bishop to c4, a more solid square. Oh, that's a very huge difference on the clocks. I go backwards, I support my bishop. I don't want opposition with major and minor pieces. That's very dangerous. He opens up these two diagonals. I can go here, and if he goes here, I will block with my rook. And then I push my king forward. He will probably create a strong battery here. So I will have to counterplay. Check. I cover. A very serious threat. That's quite dangerous, and he has a very serious advantage in material. And also many available checks. Oh, he controls the entire e-file. I will block. I go back. That's very risky. En passant. Now I pin his bishop to his king. My king is now protected. I capture. I captured. And I lost in time. Let's go in a chess tournament and be dedicated solely on board 2 for the instance. Oh, that's a bullet arena. Some bullet games should be very interesting. Great, I play versus a very strong player. En passant, no. Now we play fast. Battery. Uh, I go back. And now I created a serious threat. I capture. Support. Oh no, pin. I'm in 4. Let's continue. Regarding board 1, I think that there is a a rook battery and then a rook advance on the king side and many potential checks and finally a checkmate. Game 2 for the bullet tournament. Playing the Alekhine. Oh, I block it. And I will bring my bishop here to kick this bishop away. It's very annoying. he will lose due to his non-adequate time. First victory for the tournament. Great. Oh, my subscriber has a check. His opponent goes backwards. He can bring his rook here and here, and that's a great checkmate if he does not avoid check, maybe. He goes here. He can push, or whatever he plays. It is a winning position. Board 2, third game of the tournament. Another d4 player, as is in game 1. I support. I attack. I capture. I go forward and I support. Support. I capture. I don't capture. I go here. That's a mistaken calculation by my opponent. And I won the game. Continue. That's fascinating. Regarding board 1, my subscriber can push his h-file pawn forward because he will simplify in this way the game. Game number 4. Let's play. The ready opening. Oh, fork. Oh, that's very good for my position. I capture the rook, so I have many chances here. Threat, threat, I support. I offer an exchange. I offer the exchange again. He captures the pawn, unfortunately. Oh, and he threatens my bishop. His knight is in trouble now. He can capture. No. Oh, I have to play very fast now. Oh, I lost. Oh, here my subscriber won. That was an excellent game. Now I leave the tournament and I play the last rapid game for today. And as it seems, better today, but I think that I have the rating advantage now. I am closer to the 2000 Ilos. So that's the final game for today. And all I need is concentration. I threaten the bishop here. He has to retreat. I develop my rook. He will play symmetrically probably. And then I will just foster a queenside fianchetto. He offers an exchange. I can accept it, but there is the danger of this pawn on the d-file recapturing, which restricts the movement of my knight, so I will not accept the exchange. I support creating a pawn chain. So my opponent played knight to b6, which has as a major plan to place his knight on c4, which is a very strong square that threatens my bishop. I will capture the knight, and now I will go to I will go for knight to d2 in order to prevent this move. And also I threaten here his bishop exchange. Great position. I can place my rook on the c-file and my position will be great. He expands the king side. It doesn't matter. I will place my rook here because I prepare a queenside attack. And the strong battery, of course, that threatens both the pawn and the file. I think that's ideal. As you see in the diagram, my subscriber gained some elo points today. So uh, I think that he will win the challenge for today. This part of the diagram is many days ago. It's not the latest results. That's the latest results, and I think that he won here because even if I win this game, I will not get my points back. So I will create a battery on the E file counterplay. I think that I can push my queen to b3 because I will place it in the same diagonal with his king, but also I will be able to push my pawns forward and uh, create uh, a queenside attack. I think that I have an advantage in this position, and also I think that I am winning at this point because there is the diagonal threat, the pin blocked by my pawn, the pawn storm on the queen side. These pawns cannot harm my pawn chain here. It is too safe. So I will go for the attack. And my opponent, of course, will be forced to take the pawns and he will retreat his knight because if he pushes this pawn forward, I will capture it and I will threaten his bishop and his queen. In this position, my opponent is overthinking. Let's analyze it a little bit. These pawns on the king side are blocked by these pawns on my king side. Also, I have this pawn on the uh, e file. It is not isolated. It is a part of my pawn chain. It cannot cause any trouble to the black's position. And also, these pawns are blocked, trapped into my great tactic. Now he pushes the pawn forward. I cannot just capture it because then I will expose my king and this will be very disadvantageous. I can recapture with this pawn, but then he will push this pawn forward, and if I capture, I will lose a rook. If I play this move, after the exchange, I will be able to win a pawn and threaten the knight. There are many alternatives in this position. I can also kick this knight away, but this pawn will be weak. If I go here, I will not solve my problem and my opponent will place his knight on c4. Oh, after the exchange in this move, I will expand the center, and if he captures the pawn, I will recapture. Very simple. Oh, but there is also this move, the fork. But I have this knight here that blocks the fork. And if he goes here, I will go here. So I can just play my tactic. Now the position has become very complex, and I think that my opponent is struggling to find a good move. I think that this is the best move in this position, and the recapture with the h-file pawn will be great because I uh, reinforce my center, and also I tend to protect this pawn advance. He moves his knight away. I can capture it and he will recapture, but he will control the entire file. I think that here I can move my knight on f3, which is basically an attacking move. It threatens the pawn, it is closer to the center, and also I ignore all the potential threats on the queen side because there is no reason to uh, counterplay on the queen side. I can just manage with uh, the threats on the king side and slightly devastate his position. He can also push this pawn forward, but I will play this move. After the exchange I will go here, and as long as this pawn is supported I will have my rook here, because he will probably move one of his rooks. I cannot threaten his queen here. I can bring my queen to the center to join the attack. I can go here and then I will prepare a devastating attack. I will go for it as long as I support this pawn. But if he captures, I will recapture in the next move, because if I ignore this pawn and just play this move, uh, this attack will be blocked very easily and I will be one pawn down. I recapture. I should support this knight, but there is a very strong threat on this pawn. It is solely supported by the king. Oh, I can also open up the position to support it by the queen, which is even greater. and more complex for my opponent. And now I block. No, I don't block the diagonal threat of his bishop. I will simply threaten his queen, because now the pawn is supported. He will probably go here, but after this move I will play rook to h1, which prepares an undiscovered attack on f4. 5, I mean, from white's perspective. Devastating move. Now I will win the game. 13-12. Oh, he wants an exchange. Oh, I think that it is a winning, because he's +1. Now I am +8, and now I am -2. I capture the rook. Check. He captures, and I go here, and I am plus in material. It doesn't matter how many pawns, but I have the advantage. See, I am +4. I told you that it is advantageous. And now I open up the diagonal. I sacrifice the pawn. I go here, and now check. Mate. Okay, it doesn't matter, but in the second move, it would be a checkmate. But I won, and now I have 1990 elos. Uh, Approximately 30 elos down, but it doesn't matter. Let's take a note. Won the challenge. So, I read in the chat. Final result of the challenge. Victory for my subscriber. Total score, where I mean from both live streams, George's Riddle Academy versus subscriber 1-1 draw. See you in episode 3. Goodbye.